G'day, Stuart. How are ya? Always here, ready and waiting. Almost start. Great to have something entertaining to watch again. Really missed it last week. Almost started having withdrawals. I'm sorry I couldn't make it last week. Something on. But we are back this week with a vengeance. We'll give a minute for some other people to hop on, I suppose. But how are you, Stuart? I think we'll have a few people from TikTok hop over in a minute, maybe. But yeah, today's going to be a little bit quiet and a little bit short. We're not going to be doing venomous stuff today. I've just got a bit of a bug. See, soon as I said I'm not going to take venomous stuff out, we lost somebody. So yeah, we're going to take out some pythons, have a bit of a chat. But yeah, be a little bit more casual than other weeks, I suppose. But the topic we want to talk about today that I thought is a good one is how COVID is affecting conservation. And what it can maybe teach us about conservation. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were sort of bringing up way back when it started. I say way back, it's a year ago, but it feels like forever. You know, when everything first started and the first lockdowns happened, you saw all these sort of nice articles, really, of, like abandoned city streets and deer walking down them and things, and it looked fantastic. Nick was going to ask to see some pythons, so that works perfectly. Yeah, it's going to be all pythons tonight. There's going to be no venomous stuff tonight. No, I guess there'll be pythons all around. And maybe some lizards. But yeah, just no venomous stuff. Oop, hang on. G'day, Fries. How are you, mate? So yeah, this lady was saying, isn't it great that, nature's sort of taking a break? And in some ways it's great. People got some nice photos of, the deer walking on the street or whatever. But COVID's actually had some really big impacts on wildlife conservation around the world that we don't really think of, and a lot of them are really negative. The first one that a lot of zoologists were particularly worried about is what other animals can be impacted, particularly things like the great apes. There's a huge concern amongst scientists for things, particularly gorillas. With the tourism in Rwanda already, human flu and stuff like that can decimate gorilla populations. So there was big worries about that. But on a broader scale, the lack of tourism, if you just hop on the internet and read about it, has been absolutely devastating for wildlife. Apparently in the last year, the bushmeat trade in Africa has exploded. The amount of wildlife killed and either eaten or sold for consumption has exploded. Illegal mining, illegal logging, poaching, all those have exploded for a couple of reasons. And the major one is because of COVID. And the reason for this is, if we're talking about countries like, Rwanda or Uganda, parts of South Africa, all the safari areas, all around Latin America, places like this that rely on ecotourism, it doesn't exist. And it's so easy to go, poachers are horrible, horrible people. The end dealer is probably a horrible, horrible person. But the person doing the is more often than not a villager in a rural area with a wife and 10 kids that they've got to feed. And if they used to work as a game ranger and now they've been laid off, how hungry do their kids have to get before they go, well, I know how else to make a living? So unfortunately, COVID has had massive impacts on wildlife conservation all the way around the world. And it's something that isn't likely to get better for many, many years. So if there is a time for us collectively to help put our money in towards, wildlife conservation groups, this is the time to do it, which is going to be hard because obviously economically it's a terrible time for a lot of people around the world, but there's never been a time that, in recent history that there's been a more immediate threat, and it's because of, the lack of tourism. So the lack of all the funds from that tourism that normally goes into saving species, which is sad. The flip side of it, though, is I think being locked down and not being allowed to do stuff has, in many ways, made people appreciate nature a little bit more. Like I've spoken to so many people. I've had so many people who I went to school with who I haven't heard of from years, who during lockdown have sent me photos of birds in their backyards and things, and be like, "What's this? We saw it out the window, and do you know what it is?" And I'm not a bird nut, but they're it's been 10 years since I talked to these people, and now they're being allowed outside for their hours exercise is the thing that they look forward to. It's important to them. So I think you don't appreciate something until it's gone. And when people are locked down, they're told you can't go outside, you can't go visit the national park, and you can't go camping. People are like, man, I miss wild green spaces. So, you know, people sort of maybe appreciate a little bit more. But more importantly, I think it goes to show when human beings really decide to make a difference. HDF, thank you very, very much. If you're going to leave a super chat, ask a question, mate. Least I can do is answer a question for you. So, yeah, the other thing, and I'll get through everybody's messages in a second, but the other thing I think it goes to show is, you know, what we can achieve if we decide to. Imagine the billions and billions of dollars and all the sacrifices that we've made globally in the last 18 months. Imagine if we decided, you know, we want to seriously address climate change, or we want to seriously address deforestation, or, you know, unsustainable use of wildlife, things like this. And we could put 1% of that effort collectively into these issues. Extinction wouldn't be an issue. So, you know, I think COVID has been a huge impact on wildlife, and it will continue to be a huge impact on wildlife in a negative way. But I also think it's potentially, you know, one of our biggest lessons in what we're capable of doing if we really decide to. So, but that's me on my high horse for the day. I'll get through some questions. But g'day Basil, how are you, mate? Hello to Billy. Hope work went well last week. Yeah, I had to shear some sheep for my father-in-law. So, could we please see the Scrubby and some Antaresia tonight? We can see the Scrubby. I won't have the Scrubby out for long just because, well, actually, before I do, most of you guys wouldn't have met this snake. But yeah, I won't have the Scrubby out for long because I just fed him 3 days ago. But before I do this is Quasimodo. He's a snake that I don't think has been on a YouTube live stream yet. So he's one of our he's our only coastal carpet python at the moment. And he gets his name Quasimodo. He's got one good eye. Do you want to look this way? Nope. He's got one good eye and one dinky eye. One little eye. So that's where he gets his name from. Don't bite the back of my head. So yeah, Quasimodo is one of our carpet pythons. He was given to me as a pet that needed a good home. But he's a cool snake. He's just he doesn't do shows yet. We just haven't put the time and effort into him. But he's relatively relaxed, but he doesn't like sudden movements. And obviously, you know, I go to kindergartens. So he's going to need a little bit more work before we do that. When I do schools, I'll probably, like when we get back into doing school incursions, we'll probably, do I know what happened to his eye? No, I've got no idea. It came that way. I dare say I've seen snakes with similar where one sunken eye and like, it doesn't look damaged. It's like the scales have just grown around. It's not the right size. And in the past when I've seen that, it's been genetic, like they've been born that way. So whether it's an incubation issue, something like that, all the snakes that I've seen it from the beginning of their life, it's been at the beginning of their life. Thank you, Davili. What is my favorite python? Also had to be big dogs because I couldn't last. Oh, well, thank you very much. So my favorite python in the world is the scrub python. I think scrub pythons are amazing. I will get the scrub python out. I just thought since Quasimodo hasn't ever been on a live stream because he's been living in the other reptile room, the least I could do is introduce him. He's a cool snake, and you guys know everything I have now. So, but he is a good boy. I'll take him off. We'll put him away, and maybe we'll get this little scrub python out for a little while. The scrubby, like I said, we won't have him out too long because we just had to give him a feed. And while he's getting better to handle, he's not getting any better at eating. So, yeah, I don't want to manhandle him too much. Yeah, I think he found a good home, Quasi. Hopefully he ends up turning out good enough for shows, which I think he will. I usually start them off at schools because schools are the easiest sort of show to do. And work my way up to birthday parties. Alrighty, so this is our baby Scrubby. Can I please get the monitor out? I could get the monitor out tonight. Since we're not doing anything venomous, I'll try and get the monitor out. So this is our baby Scrubby. You asked what my favourite python is. Scrubby's my favourite snakes Not even just pythons. They're probably my favourite snakes. I love them. They're full of attitude. I wish... You're going to bite my hand. My main thing I like about them, besides the fact that they get big, what's going in the top 2 enclosures? I'm thinking Quasi will move into this one, which is why he's up here. Because I brought him up because I picked up the glass today and I just ran out of time to get the glass in, get all the rubbish out, clean it up. And this one, we've got 2 other things that could go in it. Either Charles, I've got a small Darwin carpet python, and we've got a breadlie. So, yeah, either the breadlie or the other Darwin, I haven't really decided. Eventually, next year, the goal is to have Diana move outside. I want to set up my Darwin pythons outside, which will free up this enclosure. But I want to get her nice and fat first. And also, the time to move them outside is like mid to late spring, so that they're out throughout the warm period and they gradually cool. And we just didn't have everything set up out there for her. But yeah, so I think this will be Quasi's enclosure. But yeah, I was talking about scrub pythons. The reason my favourite, not just because they're the biggest snake in the country, but I like the fact they've got gnarly, sort of narky attitudes and everybody talks them up as if they're horrible, which makes me, seems to have dropped the small snake syndrome tonight. Yeah, maybe a little bit. I did feed him, her, it. I hope it's a her. We took a guess it's her the other day, but she's still being force fed. She doesn't eat by herself, which is okay. she come from friends and they knew that I was comfortable force feeding if I had to. But yeah, we'll continue doing that. But she seems to have relaxed a little bit. I'm just, if she was more snappy, she might be more inclined to eat. But that's all right. We'll keep persisting. But yeah, so besides the fact that they're big, I like the fact that everybody else doesn't like them. But my main thing is I like the scales on their head. So Scrubbies have these big platy scales on their head, which to me, I don't know, I just look at them and I think that they're like a stretched out dinosaur. So I think they're amazing. But yeah, that's why they're my favourite snake. Their attitude, their bad reputation, their size, the scales, they're just cool animals. Maybe you can stay out a little while. You'll see me nice and relaxed. Anybody else who's watching, Carolyn hasn't turned up to tell everybody yet. Leave a thumbs up, guys. If you're watching, you enjoy what we're doing. The more thumbs up we get, the more people see it, which we need to keep pushing. Actually, this week's video, I'm guessing you guys have all seen our red belly video from this week. The first video we've done in months that has got over 1,000 views in its first 24 hours. There you go. You guys have got it. Thumbs up. G'day, Jamie. How are you? Coming to Ballarat soon. I don't have any shows on Ballarat anytime soon. I'd love to get in at Bunnings down there. Scrubbies are the bogans of the snake world. I love scrubbies. But they are a little bit bogany, I suppose. I think they're fantastic. Maybe the schizophrenics of the snake world or bipolar. But I think they're cool. So yeah, I don't have any shows coming up in Ballarat. I'll be driving through Ballarat in sort of a couple of weeks' time to go and visit my parents in Melbourne. But yeah, it's my only plans to go to Ballarat at the moment. If somebody books us, we'll go there. I've got to find time to not only get to Melbourne, but I've got to find time to get to Adelaide to pick up these betongs. We get cute farm animals at our Bunnings, and Ballarat gets snakes. Well, I haven't done the Ballarat Bunnings before, but we used to do Mount Gambier Bunnings every 6 weeks. They were my best client, which was great, except for the fact that they're across the border. So every time I'd go, I have to get an export permit from Victoria and an import permit from South Australia to go there in the morning, and I have to have permits for the afternoon to export them out of South Australia and import them back to Victoria. And they booked me 2 days in a row. So at first, they made me do it twice. I had to have 8 permits for a show. But in the end, they let me officially keep them in South Australia overnight. But man, it was a paperwork nightmare, and I'm not good with paperwork. How many elapids do I own? I don't know, 15 or so, at a guess. It's frustrating, yeah. So yeah, speaking of import permits, I've just been speaking with the lady over in South Australia, and it looks like we're going to get these 2 Brushtail Betong girls. which for those of you who don't know, a betong, it's like a kangaroo that's this tall. So they're in the Macropodia, or sort of superfamily, macropods. So think of a rabbit-sized wallaby. They're pretty cool. And there's lots of different species of betongs, about 5. And I kept and bred Rufus betongs in the past, which come from New South Wales. But we're going to get booking in Horsham. I'd love to do a booking in Horsham. I approached the Bunnings in Horsham, and I get it. Like, they're small Bunnings. They said they just don't have the budget that bigger Bunnings have. But I get a few birthday parties out, like Nilway from time to time. You know, you have a good life snake-wise when you can't remember how many leopards you have. Yeah, I'm also not good at numbers. They all turn into one in my head, or I'll count them and be like, oh yeah, there's that one, or this one, or, you know, how it goes. We just get sausage sandwiches and overly long queues. Well, if I could go up to your Bunnings, guys, I would. Maybe one day we can, you know, take the trip around the country. We'll go to every Bunnings. We'll have a sausage at every place. I forgot what I was even talking. Oh yeah, so these betongs. We were offered, I spoke to you guys about it a few weeks ago, we were offered some 2 female brushtail betongs. Because I used to breed Rufus betongs, they come from New South Wales. The brushtail betong, in the 1800s, was found over 2/3 of Australia, from West Australian coast right here into Western Victoria. You know, every state except for Tasmania. And by the mid-1900s, it was thought to be extinct on the mainland, until they found a small population of them way over the west coast of Western Australia. Now, unfortunately, we've more recently discovered that there were 2 subspecies, and the eastern subspecies is extinct. It's no longer, but the western subspecies has been bred up. They've been re-released into big enclosures like Arid Recovery out in the desert, and they've bred up into the thousands again, but they're still a critically endangered animal. Like, they only exist because of fenced, predator-proof, you know, enclosures and fox eradication programs. But we were offered a pair of female brushtail betongs, and I ummed and ahed about it. I put it to you guys, and you guys said it'd be a great idea. And I've looked a bit more into it, and I've got another friend who runs a zoo in Melbourne who's going to give us a male, which means that we should be able to put together a trio, if everything goes well and everybody's happy with each other, of endangered brushtail betongs. So these ones won't be friendly, they won't be tame, but the goal will be to breed them. We will hand raise 1 or 2 of their babies to use in educational displays, and the rest of them will go into sort of breeding programs either for us or for other zoos, and you know, maybe one day contribute to wild populations or something like that. So that'd be a pretty cool thing. They're still an endangered species depending on conservation. You'll join in? You know, I used to do a lot of Bunnings when I was in Melbourne and things like that. But so yeah, that's the main big news, I suppose. The fact we wanted to talk a bit about how I think COVID's going to. Wonder how easy they breed. Apparently, they breed very easily, which I believe. I've got friends who have bred them. They've never had dramas. I used to breed Rufus betongs, and same thing. Like they breed. You can breed them 3 or 4 times in a year. The issue is finding suitable places for them to go, or splitting up your pairs. And when you split them up, then you reintroduce them and you risk them getting into fights and stuff all over again. So most people, once they've got them together, breeding well, they want to keep them together. So I'm lucky that, you know, I'm connected through other facilities and places that would take any that I don't want to keep. So how many young do they have? They have 1 at a time. If they have any more than 1, they usually leave the pouch too early and don't end up surviving in the wild. In captivity wouldn't be a big deal because we can pull them and hand raise them. And I will be pulling 1 or 2 joeys, you know, once they're fully furred, to hand raise inside and use for educational displays. Because really, the marsupials, if you're going to use them for shows, they need to be humanized. They're not like a snake. You know, I can take a bitey snake and I can get it tame. I can't take a terrified possum and get it friendly. It's already afraid of me. So we'll pull 1 or 2, and then we'll just go back to breeding. We'll probably breed up so that we've got, I'll either keep a male out of them or some females out of them, and then find an unrelated line. Just, if we're going to be serious about keeping them, we'll probably want to keep 2 different breeding groups, and it means that if anything ever happens, we can continue the line going. And maybe we'll join up with, you know, Roy Pales. He's got a nice facility where he's bred some and releasing them into a big privately owned reserve. We can maybe team up with something like that. So, yeah, one at a time, but you could have 3 or 4 babies a year out of them. I'll put this baby Scrubby away, and maybe we'll get out this monitor. We really wanted to see the monitor. The least I can do for that awesome super chat, mate, is get out the lace monitor. I can't promise it'll be very long. If you've seen me get her out in the past, she's not exactly the tamest. And I will have her tame one day, but at the moment, the best way to get them tame is to not handle them too much. There you go. Calm down, girl. Right, I'm going to have to just restrain you. So yeah, this is our lace monitor. This is Lucy, our lace monitor. Yeah, I won't keep her out too long, mate. She's going to bite me on the face. Yeah, we're only going to make it wild. I can get Elliot out. You'll probably be the same now, Elliot. Stay in there, loose. There you go. She'll find the rat for me. Yeah, we're not going to put Lucy on the ground. So yeah, sorry mate, I tried to get her out for you. The thing with lace monitors, if you want them to be tame, the best thing to really do is feed them and feed them and feed them and feed them and let them just get over you. So the more I force handling on her, the less likely she'll turn out tame when she gets big. Can I get an Antaresia? Yeah, I've got a spotted python that I'll get out for you. He's the only Antaresia I keep at the moment. So I can about, oh, Kyle, thank you very much. Little just to feed some animals. Thank you very much. It's a big help. Wait, what was the little critter on my hat in the thumbnail of this video? A sugar glider. It's he lives outdoors, but I realised that I hadn't put up a photo yet, so I just flicked through my phone for old old photos. Like us females, what, feed them and keep them happy. So yeah, best way to keep them tame is to just basically feed them up and let them get used to you. And the more you handle them when they don't want to be handled, the less tame they'll turn out. So we won't force it on it. But, you know, Elliot, who's only bunking in here for the winter, he lives outdoors. He's pretty cruisy, pretty chill, until he decides not to be. But is just as big of a lizard until he decides not to be. But he's a pretty cool lizard as well. A body. Alright, those sugar gliders take some work to socialize. Yeah, a bit. I don't generally tame them down. Like I've only got one sugar glider. Hang on, I'll get out the spotted python, and then we'll have a talk about it. So yeah, with regards to socializing sugar gliders and the likes, some people have find success, you know, having parents raise them and going into the aviary and just handling them, and they work out tame, which is fine. It's better. I'd rather do that if I can, but I don't need them to just be tame. I need them to be able to like deal with noise and being transported and all this. So generally, if they're going to be a handling animal, I'll wait until they're a back joey, like they leave the pouch, they move on to mum's back, and then I'll pull them off mum, or if there's 2 of them, I'll pull one, and I'll hand raise it on formula inside and humanize it as much as I can. So I've got one sugar glider at the moment, and I didn't actually hand raise him. He was hand raised by somebody else, and he was then not socialized back to a sugar glider. So I haven't found another sugar glider he can live with. So he lives by himself. Actually, he lives with a ringtail possum. I keep squirrel gliders, and my squirrel gliders, you know, I say they're not tame. I couldn't use them for shows. If I walk into the aviary, and we should do a video one day in the aviary. They're about to move into a bigger aviary, which I'll be able to walk in and, you know, film walking around in there. They'll come down and sit on you, pinch a bit of food, but I couldn't like hold them. So Thanks for getting out the spotted. No worries. Might be picking up one yourself. They're fantastic snake spotteds. I think the children's pythons are your internet work out there. Out here. Out there. Yeah, true. It might not be a live stream. It might be me filming in there and then editing it and then putting it up. Yeah. We don't have great internet. But the other half was talking to somebody in town at Telstra and they reckon they might be able to fix it. So yeah, if they could fix it, it'd be fantastic. Which really, we're only 20 k's out of town. We shouldn't have that bad of internet, but you know, nobody cares about rural Australia. So yeah, speaking about spotted pythons as pets, of the, you know, the 4, 3, whatever you want to call them, children's pythons, I think spotteds are fantastic. They don't seem to go off their food the same way stimmies do, in my experience anyway. They're the biggest, but they're still small. But the whole family in general, the spotteds, the children's, the stimsons, maybe take out the pygmies. They're probably fragile for some people. But those 3 species, they have the potential to be, you know, Australia's answer to the ball python. Like, there's not a more inoffensive snake to deal with and handle than this. And not that I'm into colour morphs, I like everything fairly natural. But there's some people like Peter Birch who are doing lots of hard work on breeding different colours and patterns and all sorts of things, where people can go and you know, they can buy white ones and red ones and all sorts of stuff. And really, it's the colour mutations that made ball pythons really take off. We live in town on the Morning Peninsula and the internet isn't that great here. Yeah, the internet's terrible here. From time to time, if I move the phone to look at something, it'll cut out. Or I go halfway to move it and tomorrow reminds me that I don't have very good internet. So, you're basically my secretary. I like them natural myself. Yeah, I like them. Well, I used to be strongly anti colour morphs. I thought, you know, colour morphs are terrible for conservation. They're horrible. If you breed them, you're bad for wildlife. And I don't really think that anymore. And I look at them and I think that they're pretty snakes. Like, there isn't many people who look at some of the colour morphs and don't think, wow, that looks cool. It doesn't mean I want to keep it and breed it. I like the wild colour morphs particularly because I want to be able to go to school and tell people, you know, this is a spotted python. It lives in the east coast of Queensland, and this is what it looks like, and this is where it lives. I don't want to take in, you know, one that's silver and white and say, well, in the wild they're like this, but they're a bit of a different colour. Do I have a diamond python? I do have a diamond python. She'll probably bite me if I take her out, but we'll give it a go. Since I'm not taking out anything venomous for the night, the least I can do is deal with Diana for you. So yeah, for that reason I generally don't do colour morphs. I don't have a hook or anything. There we go. We'll get it. Oh, she'll probably come out of herself in a second if she thinks I'm feeding her. So yeah, this is Diana, a diamond python. Oh, someone's leaving. See you, Kyle. Thank you very much for dropping by. So yeah, we've got 2 diamond pythons. Actually, if you don't want to come out, this one's not much friendlier, but he's not much friendlier, but he's a bit smaller from. So our 2 diamond pythons. This one's Diana, and this is I'm thinking of calling him Dusty, who's going to be the boyfriend for Diana. And he's grown a lot actually. It's been a little while since I pulled him out, but sorry. Diana loves her food, so don't like the idea of making them look attractive just so somebody buys a snake for looks without knowing how to care for them properly. Look, I get that. And that's exactly how I used to feel. I used to say that, you know, by breeding them different colours, people are getting it for the wrong reason, and that animal's never going to be any use for releasing into the wild, and all these sorts of things. And the whole release and conservation sort of thing, once I got involved with zoos, realised it doesn't really make a difference. Because like this guy here, For all intents and purposes, he looks indistinguishable from a wild diamond python. But if wild diamond pythons became endangered, zoos would not consider him as a suitable candidate for... Love the name Dusty. Well, my old diamond pythons were Matthew Richardson and Mark Knight because they're Richmond colours. You probably don't even know what football is up there. You got rugby. But, so I'm thinking Dusty from Richmond. But, yeah, so I used to be strongly anti-colour morphs for that reason. As far as the care requirements goes, you could just as easily say there would be just as many wild type specimens kept badly, maybe even more, because they've got a lower price tag. So one thing with the colour morphs, they do have some potential benefits, and it kills me to admit it, because I used to hate the idea of them. But in a weird way, like take blue tongues for instance, there would be less blue tongues now getting... Really, you'd be crazy to go and catch wild blue tongues now and smuggle them overseas, because if you're going to do it and you're going to take the risk, and nobody should, it's a horrible thing, but if a poacher is going to take that risk, they're probably going to spend $1,000 and take the risk with an albino blue tongue, cost them $1,000 in the first place, but might get them $50,000 when it gets over the States, then do it with a wild caught blue tongue that might get them $200 over in the States. So colour morphs in some ways make the wild animals less appealing to poachers. They're not my cup of tea, but a lot of other people like them. So yeah, they do have that effect. And also, you know, some people who might not have got into reptiles in the first place, arguably might get into them because they see something cool. They might not even end up getting that themselves. It just might be that picture in a reptile magazine that gets them hooked, that they then learn more. And again, I think we should all like them for the wild types, but there's lots of people over in the States who have got into reptiles after seeing, you know, an albino ball python or whatever. What effect would non-native snakes have on Australia's ecosystem? Like, say, a Mojave rattlesnake. It'd be catastrophic. I don't know specifically about Mojaves, but the public wouldn't be happy about it. But yeah, so Australia, as a general rule of thumb, really struggles with invasive species for two reasons. Our climate is very suitable for reptiles. That's why we're the reptile capital of the world. So, you know, in the States, you know, Florida is a big issue with reptiles because of the climate. A huge chunk of Australia, like 2/3 of Australia, is climatically similar to Florida. So, yeah, introduced species would be a big issue for that. The other thing is, because we're an island, our species has been isolated. And this plays a couple of roles. By being isolated for a long time, our animals haven't had to evolve to cope with competition. So they haven't had to get faster, smarter, fitter. In some ways, they're a little bit behind the 8 ball. They've been living on Noah's Ark. So when you suddenly give them competition, Australian wildlife generally doesn't fare so well. The other thing is, by being isolated, not only have they not had competitors come in, they've not had the diseases that those competitors might bring in. So Australian wildlife isn't resistant to a lot of diseases. Things like mange. You know, dogs get mange, they get itchy, they look terrible. Wombats get mange and they die. You know, it gets so itchy that they basically decide to sit in the open and starve to death rather than go through the pain of walking. And it's because they evolved on a continent without it. And there could be so many diseases like this that exist in reptiles overseas that aren't a big issue. Not even diseases, things like parasites, you know. Spider mites have been found, they're in the wild here in Australia now, which are snake mites. And they came in. Yellow fungus, which is a fungal disease on bearded dragons, is being seen to affect water dragons in Queensland now. So, yeah, that's the reasons we don't keep exotics here. Love my children's name is Psycho. Reason for use to be terrible. Want to bite, but now he's calm. Good to hear he's calm now. But there are breeders who breed for patterns over breeding for clutches. Yeah, so, you know, some people who breed for patterns and colours and stuff like that, they're breeding... I'd rather see people breed less and really focus on what they're breeding, whether it's colour morphs, whether it's natural, then just let's have as many as possible. So, g'day, is it Kaleem? How are you, mate? I don't know how much longer I'll be on here, guys. I'm ready to go inside and my last cold and flu tablet for the day. and try and get some sleep. Like I said, I don't know if you guys have been here since the beginning, but my adorable 3-year-old has she's got tonsillitis at the moment. She brought home a bug from playgroup, and she's been sick for 2 weeks. And the whole time I haven't been crook, and the last few days I've been crook, and now my missus is crook, and she's been like pumping cold and flu tablets into me, which is why my reactions are a little bit sluggish. So that's why we're not playing with the venomous snakes. I'll get out Jake though. Jake hasn't been out yet today, and Jake's one that everybody likes. It's been all snakes today, actually. Maybe, no, we did get 2 lizards, yeah. Hey, Jake. So yeah, Jake's basically becoming a crowd favourite. He blends in with that crocodile very well. Do you have a black-headed python? No, I don't keep black-headed pythons these days. I've had them. Brian only goes for specifics. I'm guessing Brian Barchick. I don't follow him these days. He's a very, very knowledgeable breeder, but his content's not to my cup of tea. Sounds hypocritical. Maybe I'm. I don't know. I don't watch too many people who are really. Oh, hang on. Am I back? Can you hear me? Did I lose yous? Hello? I don't know if you can hear me or not, but there's a lot of people who are good content creators, and I don't watch them because. I have a little bit of an ADHD mind, which you'd think means I want fast and in your face and all that. But the reality is, if they're too quick, I'm just way behind them. I can't keep up with it. So, like guys like Chandler and stuff like that, I like what they do. I can't watch it myself. It's too fast. I end up having to rewatch it 3 or 4 times just to get the facts out of it. So, but for other people, it's fantastic, and they get a lot of people interested. So I'm not going to down talk anybody else's stuff, but yeah, I don't watch them these days. Yeah, Florida has African rock pythons along with the Burmese. Yeah, I heard that they got African rocks, and they've had Indian pythons, which the genetics, they're Burmese, shows that they've been hybridizing with Indian pythons, which we know that they can do, but they're thinking that the Indian python genetics, Indian pythons are a little bit more cold tolerant than Burms. So if you put some Indian blood in the Burms, it might extend their possible range. So it's just sad to see reptiles exploited and mistreated. Yeah, it's a pretty sad thing. I would like to know, what is my favourite animal that I have? Probably my dingo. Aztec, my dingo is my baby. If I go away or if something happened to me, he's the only one who'd miss me. Maybe the wombat. When she was little, the wombat would have definitely missed me. But now she's a grumpy adult female wombat, and she just thinks that dad keeps hanging around. Ada would like to know... Oh, sorry, so it was Ada. So Ada, yeah, of all my animals, I have Aztec, who's my dingo, is probably my favourite. He was my baby. He lived in my house up until, we moved to this house, and now he's got a big enclosure in the backyard. But we're looking at building a bigger enclosure, twice the size, out the other side of the house, and making more room for outdoor reptile enclosures in the backyard, which will be cool. As the kids grow up, means that they can see all the snakes and stuff outdoors. If I could only own one species of snake, what would it be? If I had only one species of snake, I'd probably build like a wall-to-wall enclosure and have planted out and put scrub pythons in there. Because I just like scrub pythons. If I could only keep one of the snakes that I have now, like if somebody said, they're going to take them all off me and you can keep one, it'd probably be Brutus, the red belly. And, red bellies are cool. I don't want to say that I like red bellies more than scrubbies, but I like Brutus. He's amazing. Ada loves dingoes. She met 2 at a local farm. One of my first jobs was at a dingo research centre, and it's puppy season it's coming into puppy season at the moment. So we might do some dingo videos at the research centre, if we can, and do some dingo videos. I haven't done dingo videos for a while. We found an echidna in a toilet. Hang on. Echidna in a toilet block the other day. We picked it up super carefully and found it outside. I went to kinder to pick up my daughter a few weeks ago, and there was an echidna in the garden at playgroup, and all the kids are sitting around it, and Isabella, who's only 3.5, has got them all sitting around it. She goes, "Don't touch him. He's got lots of spikes, and echidnas eat ants with their very sticky tongues." she, you can tell she's the kid that grew up with wildlife at home. It was hilarious. She would love to see that. Yeah, so the Australian Dingo Foundation, they bred Aztec, so my dingo comes from them, back from when I used to work there. Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, I'll go and film there, but I'll probably do it at puppy season, so that they've got lots of puppies. And I'm hoping, they don't breed for colour, which is obviously good. That's not what we're going to do. But I'm hoping that if they have puppies of the 3 different colours, we can talk a bit about the 3 different colours well, there's more than 3, but the 3 main colours in dingo, which would be cool. Alright, buddy, we'll put you away. I don't know, we'll get out one last animal, actually, who I haven't got out. I don't think I even got her out last week. Hang on, I wasn't here last week. You know what I mean. I'm talking to myself. Of all my lizards, this is probably my favourite lizard. This is Prickle. Prickle's our Cunningham skink. Can picture giving the kids a lesson just like that. Yeah, Isabella loves it. She's it's funny. I've probably said it to you guys before. Like some people wonder why she doesn't like it more, and she does like it, but when she comes in here, like they expect her to be at like the kids at birthday parties, like give it here, I want to touch this and I want to touch that, and she's a little bit reserved, and it's not because she doesn't like them, and that's what some people think. It's because she's grown up in a household where half of the snakes that we have could kill you. So she's very much, and only 3.5, and we're on a farm, so she sees something, and rather than rushing in, she waits for Dad and goes, Dad, can I touch this? So people expect her to be gung-ho, and just because she's not gung-ho, they're like, oh, is she that into it? Not that crazy about it. I'm like, no, she loves it. She's just, she's sensible, which is perfect. It's exactly how we raised her. But yeah, she certainly gave her kids a lesson. I gave her a tiger snake skin to take into playgroup, and they sent me a photo of her sitting all the kids down in a semicircle and telling them how snakes are dangerous, and if we see snakes, we go and tell Daddy. And the kindergarten teacher tried explaining to her that not every other kid is going to have a dad that wants to see the snake. But yeah, she's going to have certainly a very different childhood, as will our second. We should do videos on olive pythons and worm pythons. I should do a video on, well, I own both. I do have an olive python, and I've got wormers, but I don't have my wormers with me at the moment. They're still out on a breeding loan with somebody else, but I can do a wormer python and a wormer video and an olive video. Remind me in the comments of this when it goes live, and I will try and organise a wormer video and an olive video. So I'll do my best. She's going to have the best upbringing, yeah. And she's, she's pretty keen on her horses and stuff like that as well. So, we got 7 horses here. So, yeah, she goes to pony club and all that. The funny thing is to her that she's got all these animals, and her pet lamb is her favourite animal. Like they're not exciting and new to her. They're just other animals that she has, and to her it's normal. She likes them, but it's why she doesn't want to push everybody else. What do I feed Prickle? Prickle gets when you go to Coles and you buy the cut up fruit and veggies from the frozen food section. Prickle eats mostly that, so I feed her on fruit and veggies, a little bit of cat food or something mixed in. In the wild, they're insectivorous as babies. By the time they're adults, they're basically herbivores. So they'd be eating flowers, all sorts of plant leafy material. A lot of flowers and stuff like that. So she gets mostly mixed veggies. I'd love to keep her outside, but the fact that she's a friendly Cunningham skink, most Cunninghams don't become friendly. She needs to become a veteran keeper. I probably won't push her to become a veteran keeper. For a few reasons. I used to be a zookeeper. I loved zookeeping. It's a very, very draining lifestyle being a zookeeper for very little in return. We'll give her access to whatever she wants to do. If she wants to be a veteran zookeeper, we will make that happen. If she wants to be an astronaut, I know nothing about it, but damn tootin', she likes planets at the moment. So every night I crank up the phone and we listen to a song about all the planets. So she'll do whatever she wants, but so far she does like animals. When she's hanging out with me, she wants to work with animals, and when she's hanging out with Mum, she wants to be a hairdresser. But yeah, like I said, we've got another one on the way. So it's only going to be 2. That's enough after that. But yeah, the next one is due the end of September. So who knows? They might not be in animals at all. My other half, she's not interested in wildlife. Like she's interested. She likes looking at them. We had a koala in the backyard the other day. You know, she wanted to go and get some photos and stuff, but she's never ever touched a snake. She comes in here. If I'm away for a week or a couple of days, she'll come in here and she'll look in all the water bowls. The lizards and stuff, she'll open it and she'll tip water in from a distance. The snakes, if they're in their hides, she will. Otherwise, she'll come back later in the day. The venomous stuff, she can check if they've got water and then ring somebody to handle them. She won't touch anything, which is fair enough. It's not her cup of tea. But yeah, so it is what it is. But all right, guys, I think we might wrap things up there. We've been here for 45 minutes. Why does Australia have to protect Tasmanian devils in Australia? I heard they're in an area called Devil Ark. Yeah, so there's a facility called Devil Ark. Well, it's now Aussie Ark because they wanted to start keeping quolls and potoroos and stuff and write off the devil sort of publicity. But devils in Tasmania were devastated by one of the only, I think there's 3 examples of contagious cancers in the world. And the devils had one of them. It's called devil facial tumor disease. So it causes tumors around the face. And the issue for devils is they bite each other a lot. And it would be spread when one devil bites another devil. This cancer, whether it's bacterial or viral, I can't recall, but it gets into the next devil's face when they're biting. And it grows so big that the devils can't see, they can't eat, and they just die. And it wiped out devils in huge sections of Tasmania. So when this first started, people took devils off Tasmania, quarantined them to make sure they were free of the disease, and then put them in a big breeding programs on mainland Australia, which is great. It means we've got more of them. It becomes a whole different kettle of fish getting them back if we want them back. It's not as straightforward as people make out. But it turns out that Tasmania being as big as it is, devils in some areas seem to be more resistant than devils in others, and their populations are slowly coming back now. So it's great that we've got this backup population at Devil Ark. And there's lots and lots of other facilities that do it as well. Just Devil Ark's the biggest. But it turns out that they might be able to recover without it, and that we can just have these devils in Devil Ark in case. So yeah, it's a good thing. But it's not a new idea. Like, it's the same thing that we've done with these Brushtail Betongs that I'm about to get. They were bred up in large predator-free enclosures to the point where I'm getting some myself now. So it's been done a fair bit before. So I hope that helps. But all right, guys, we're gonna hop off. I'm ready to head inside, go to bed. But thank you all for watching. If you do want to, if you enjoy the videos, make sure you give us a thumbs up for watching. Leave a comment, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to support the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, or get a shirt or a jumper or a mug, be nice to wildlife in the Wicked Wildlife logo. There's lots of things you can do. And the biggest one is, of course, supporting us on Patreon. It's not much, but it makes a huge difference. Oh, thank you again, Davili. You're amazing. Patreon supporters are amazing. Tamara is one of our Patreon supporters. Davili is another one of our Patreon supporters. And their contributions every month keep everything here, especially during COVID, so that I can keep doing this stuff. So our Patreon supporters mean a lot to us. But yeah, hopefully I'm better by next week and we can take out the venomous snakes. Buy the merch. You guys have got a jumper already. So yeah, Davili's got a jumper there now. But thank you guys for watching. I'm going to hop off. I will see you next week. But between now and then, like I always say, be nice to wildlife.